Hello, my name's Liz Minter. I'm a London Blue Badge guide, but I live in Kent. I'm recording this in 2020 and we've all been exhorted to get out and walk. So I'm going to take you on one of my favourite walks around the coast by Folkestone, from Folkestone Central, or of course you can come down on the M20 or the M2. Now my tour will take you from here on the Harbour Arm, across the swing bridge, down to the right, past a restaurant called Rock Salt to see a Cornelia Parker piece of artwork, up here, up the old High Street, back to St Eanswith's and to the Memorial Arch. Now at this point you may well have walked for about 3/4 of an hour. If you don't want to do any more, if it's too cold, too bracing, fine, you can go down the Avenue of Remembrance. And you can go down to the Marine Parade and back to where we started the tour, and you will find places to eat down there on the Harbour Arm. Or if you've got more energy, you can come with me, this keeps jumping around, along the Leas, as it's known, along here to the Grand Hotel. Then we're going to drop down along the coast, come back here, some lovely modern artwork to see. We can again come back to the Marine Parade and back to the Harbour Arm car park. So probably an hour and a half, not arduous, and actually lovely views of the sea. And on a clear day, of course, you can see France, because we're only 28 miles from France. So here we go. Now, this is to the right of where you will be standing, looking back at Folkestone, and you're looking up here to the East Cliff. And there on the cliff is a white round building. That is a Martello Tower. The East Coast, Southeast Coast has lots of Martello Towers. They were built during the Napoleonic Wars to house soldiers, officers and ammunition, and they were there for provisions should Napoleon cross the 28 miles of the Channel to this point and invade. Now behind that Martello Tower, Canterbury Archaeological Trust have done some excavations, and they have discovered that there was a Stone Age settlement here in the Mesolithic era, and they found quernstones, and quernstones are the round milling stones. So it shows that they actually settled here, they were cultivating crops, providing their own grain. The Canterbury Archaeological Trust have also discovered evidence of a Roman villa there, and it was a very large villa, and they believe it was probably the headquarters of the naval commander. They found a stone with CB on it, Classis Britannica, and that would indicate a large naval base. Well, of course, it wasn't a defensive naval base, but it was a way of ensuring passage for the Romans to come across. They landed here in 43 AD, and with them they brought their culture, they brought their oil, they brought their olive oil, and they brought their wine, and actually they brought their vines, and wine started to be cultivated here on the southeast coast. And that's quite a big thing today, actually. We've got lots of vineyards here, but that's a subject of another tour. Now, if I bring your eyes forward, you can see this wonderful pier. Now, this pier was constructed in 1804, because from 1804 onwards, I should say. In 1804, Earl Radnor, who owned a lot of land in Folkestone, petitioned the government to provide a safe harbour for ships for the Napoleonic Wars. And so they needed to stop the tide coming in and washing everything away. Earl Radnor, who owned a lot of land in Folkestone, and this particular pier, the East Pier, was designed by William Jessup and built latterly by Thomas Telford. So a very good pier, and it's got Kentish ragstones on its side there, which allows the tide to come in and out in the sand, so it's ecologically sound. And over on this side is the other side of the swing bridge that we're going to cross in a minute, and that is the inner harbour. And in the inner harbour there, you can see a brick structure, and that is where the Pent stream comes out. Of course, there were never any settlements where there wasn't fresh water, and this stream trickles down into the inner harbour. You can see to the right of that brick-built structure what the coast used to look like. It was pure shingle, which was fine for the flat-bottom boats that came in. The Vikings invaded, and they came in about 800. Very easy to land a flat-bottom boat there, and so lots of ease for people getting into the coast before there was a proper harbour or any monitoring of it. and it should be sank because it's 5 major ports, but we call it the Cinque Ports, and it was Hastings, Romney, Hythe, Dover and Sandwich. And Folkestone became a limb of Dover and was duly asked to provide ships and men in the service of the king. And again, this was to ship them across the channel and to ensure their safety. And just before the Armada in 1588, Folkestone was charged with building a number of ships and manning them. But it was a very easy place to get into and get out of. And in the 1300s, there were umpteen storms, and Folkestone was wiped out on several occasions because we have high tides and spring tides. So it's always been a very active and lively place. Now we're going to cross over in a minute, but before I do, one of the things about Folkestone is it's one very rare seaside resort, in as much as it's not a failing seaside resort. And the reason it's not a failing seaside resort is there's been a huge move for regeneration. And the regeneration started with a 3-prong attack. And it was to create a place where people would love to live, work, educate their families and stay. And part of that 3-pronged attack brought in not only an academy and nice housing, but also something called Foxton Triennial. And this is an art exhibition of modern art which happens every 3 years. There should have been one this year, 2020, but sadly that couldn't be. But here in the harbour you can see a pink house floating. And this is a piece of modern art. So there it is amongst the fishing trawlers of Folkestone Fleet. And this is a piece of artwork by a gentleman called Richard Woods. And he put several of these wooden houses all over Folkestone. And his message was that second homes are useless, not used sufficiently, and sit empty a lot of the time. And so here we are with an empty wooden house in the middle of Folkestone Harbour. Now I mentioned triennial art, and as we go through this tour, I'll be picking out some of the modern art. So we've got quite a lot of history, but we've also got some pieces to look at. And there's another Richard Woods just to your right on the harbour arm in orange. And there were others placed in peculiar places, one at a funny angle on the beach, one on a roundabout. So you never know what you're going to find here. And there's the pink one below. This funny metal contraption on the left is known as a penthouse. And during one of the triennial art exhibitions, this was built, and several others were built, along the line of the Pent stream. And up above, we're going to look at that one again, but we're going to go to the old High Street and the creative area of Folkestone. And that, on the end of that building, is a Michael Craig Martin, Sir Michael Craig Martin artwork.